see. Right, so it's 8 o'clock, and when 8 o'clock happens, then we say, Bruchim Abayim, welcome, and we want to say that I'm so honored and so happy that Evelyne Tzoukermann is with us. She is so devoted. She came all the way from Israel just to honor letter Lammed. As I always say, I'm going to share the screen. So I'm going to share the screen, and I'm going to take you to our piyut. Adon HaSelihot. So let's see if it's there. No, it's not there. So let me see. I hope you can see it. So we are honoring letter Lammed, and letter Lammed has a very important teaching. Lovesh tzedakot. Remember, we are describing God's attributes, and this one is really profound. This is what you want to know, what that God dresses. What is that God puts on every day? And he dresses with justice and righteousness. So lovesh tzedakot. And so remember the pizmon, Chatanu lefanecha rachem alenu, Chatanu lefanecha. Oh, you say you don't see the piyut.
I know, I'm just gonna say,
Thank you, George. So let's see if now you can.
Okay.
Let's see if now you can. All right. Is that good? Yes? No? Okay. Lovesh tzedakot, as I said, God is dressed in righteousness. God is dressed in justice, in tzedakah also, right? Many times translated as charity, but charity is not what we're talking about. We're talking about what's just and righteous. So to help others is not to give charity, is to reconvert the world in the way that's supposed to be. So Ko tov umetiv laberiot yodea kol nistarot כובש עוונות, לובש צדקות, חטאנו לפניך, רחם עלינו, חטאנו לפניך, רחם עלינו. As I said, we have a very special participant for tonight, one of these malachim that is coming to teach us letter Lammed. Let me tell you a little bit about Evelyne Tzoukermann. She is a French Jew that chose to attend every possible class she could to learn more Hebrew and more Talmud in her childhood, and in addition to that, fast forwarding, she holds a PhD in linguistics and computer science from the Sorbonne. So Evelyne brings to us her deep understanding not only of Jewish history and thought, but also of the Hebrew language. And I can tell you without any doubt that we are in front of an amazing evening. So without any doubts, I'm going to make sure that, where is Evelyne? I can see you.
She's here.
Yes. So I'm going to spotlight you for everyone, and Bakasha. Toda Rabba. Thank you so much for teaching us.
Well, Hello, everybody. Erev Tov. And first, I want to thank you, Ramon, who has not stopped inspiring us. And this has been a constant. And I want to thank you all also for attending these enriching events. And I want to also thank all the spiritual speakers that preceded and will follow the Lammed speaker. So, and by the way, Judith, my life partner and wife, is going to be my technical assistant tonight on top of being my mentor most of the time. And please show us the first slide.
If it comes up, hang in. Okay, hold on a minute. It's the wrong thing, but it's coming. There it is. Okay.
So why do I have a Lammed why do I have a giraffe for a Lammed? Well, the giraffe is probably the tallest animal in the jungle or in the life of all animals. I don't exactly know. This is not my area of specialty, but it is as unique in its neck as the Lammed is in its shape. And so here is the second slide where you, on the top right, you can see that you are halfway there. And you are halfway there because the Lammed is exactly at the middle of the alphabet. And remember that the word alphabet in English is aleph-bet in Hebrew as well. And the uniqueness of Lammed is that, first of all, it is taller than any other letters in the alphabet above the baseline. And there are a lot of interpretation of it. This one that shows the half that Laura presented last night, that is Kiseh Akavod. You can see that the Kiseh is a half with a dot inside, Akavod also a half with a dot inside. The throne of glory, or literally the chair of respect. And you have on the word on the left, that is Malchut, which comes from the mem that follows the Lammed. And therefore, the Lammed is often called Melech HaMlachim, the King of Kings. So I thought it was an interesting thing to to start, so that you can see how physically it dominates the other letters, the other characters of the alphabet. Next slide, please. So this slide shows you a very small sample of the letter as it's represented. The left three columns show you the way it is printed, and the cursive Hebrew is the way people write it. And there's also the Rashi script, which is the way Rashi's commentaries of the Torah are written using the L, which is slightly different from the rest. And the next slide will show you this kind of circle. So here you see the goad of the shepherd, which has as a shape something very similar to the cursive representation of the Lammed. And there is all kind of interesting relationship between the meaning of Lammed, as I will explain in a couple of minutes, and the fact that the goad of the shepherds is leading, but also pricking and pointing the herd in a particular direction. Next slide. So as you know, we don't see it all. As you know, we are just back as a family from Israel. I spent the last month basically in Israel. And in our multiple visits at the Museum of Israel, we took this really interesting picture. The top of it, what happened, Judith?
No idea. You can probably see it on the original slide. So let's just look at that for a minute.
I don't see any original slide, but so do people see the slides?
No.
Focus, wait a minute. Okay, let me reshare. Coming up. Coming up.
Something is wrong with my assistant tonight. Okay, so much better, because now we can see the top row is the modern Hebrew alphabet. And you can see what is interesting, and I'm not sure you can see you can read the right column. It's the letter L that I circled with a red, along the different centuries. So it starts at the very beginning here, which is 1500 BCE, before the Common Era. And then we go through the next 3 letters that look alike, which are the 9th century represented, the 7th to 9th century representation. And you go down the different ages. And then you go further down, and I'm now the 3rd row before the bottom, where you have the lambda, the Greek L, followed by the Latin L, which is the one we use, and followed by the Arabic Lam. So I thought it's particularly interesting to see how the shape of the Lammed progressed and got modified along the different centuries.
And 1500 BCE, before the Common Era.
Before the Common Era, that's right.
BCE.
So, and in the Museum of Israel, you see a lot of things that are before the Common Era, for sure. And so the next thing, so we are now before the 15th century BCE, and now we go to the next slide that shows you how Lammed is being taught on Israeli Sesame Street.
But I have to get to the screen, so you got to wait 1 second for your technical support. Hold on 1 second, it's coming. Patience will be there. All right. Full screen, share screen. Here we go. Okay, Lammed. Here comes Lammed. And I'll make it big.
האות של היום היא למד. באות למד מקבלים מילה שמתחילה בצליל לב. כן, וואו. האות למד, תחזרי הנה. זו מילה שמתחילה בלב.
Lev. So for those of you who didn't know how the Lammed looked like or how to recognize it in the text, now Sesame Street really printed into your brain. And of course, the first word that comes out of Lammed is the heart shape, which is Lev in Hebrew, which is very close to love in English. I don't know whether it's from the same root or not, but you see a lot of Lammeds when you go to Israel. And surely enough, if Judy, you can go to the next slide. So you see this L on top of the cars, which means Lomed, learner. So this is people learning how to drive in Israel. And let me tell you something, it is hard to learn how to drive in Israel with Israeli drivers, but you can see those L's all over the cities. And we took a few pictures of them so that you will get the point. The next slide shows also some really, again, we are back at the Museum of Israel, where you have this jug on the left, which on which it's written to Eliyahu. And I thought that it was very nice to see the first character, which is an L from these times in history, and the third character, I don't know what happened, Judy, it goes back and forth.
What's going back and forth?
I don't see the slide.
Is that true? Can other people see them?
We see them.
Okay, and the third character, so I can continue, and the third character that shows you Eliyahu. And the next slide will show you specifically what I have in mind. So you see the Lammed twice in the bottom, that means Le Eliyahu. and the two Lammeds on the jog. And this is also a way to point out that one of the meanings of Lammed, as in the first character, is the prefix two, meaning two or four. So that's the jog for Eliyahu here. Next slide. As most of you know, Hebrew characters have are connected to what is called the Gematria, which is the Jewish numerology. So when you have, I show you how you have the alphabet in the bottom, you have aleph-bet, gimel, dalet, and it goes from 1 to 10, which is the Yud, and the kaf that you represented yesterday is 20, and then it goes by 10, and the Lamed is 30. And there is an interesting explanation about the shape of the Lamed, where people tell you that it's made out of a kaf, which is 20, which has the value of 20, and a vav, which has the value of 6. The total being 26, which is also the same gematria value as the name of God in Hebrew. So I thought it was an interesting aspect to point out. And we can now go to the next slide that shows you. So as you know, it's hard to talk about a language that is right to left when we use a language left to right. So the Lamed in the caption, in the top caption, you have the El Lamed that you recognize, the Mem and the Dalet. And this is an interesting aspect where, in fact, Rabbi Akiva is said to have noted that the spelling of Lamed can be also seen as an acronym. No, can you show me this one? Can be seen as an acronym, and the acronym in that case meaning Lev, Mevin, Da'at, which means the heart understands knowledge. And I just want to bring this to you, since the Lamed represents the prominence of learning and understanding to the Jewish heart. And this is something that I personally share with a lot of other people, but in my being Jewish, the love of learning and the love of teaching as well. So next slide, Judy. Also, go back to the previous one, perhaps.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so I would have to double check, but I saw a citation saying that the meaning of the Lamed is that it's at the base of the teaching and the learning. As you know, in Hebrew, which is based on a three consonantal root, you add vowels in the middle, and you can derive multiple meanings from the learning, like Lomed for the learner, to the Melamed, which is the teacher or the tutor, which is based on the same root. And so there is an interesting explanation that says that one of the original meaning is to prick or sting or incite, like the shepherd might prod the cattle to perform some action. And so there is some interesting convergence between learning and pushing the learning to what the Jewish philosophy tells us to do, which is acting on the teaching. And so there is, I'm showing you this reference of the Torah where it says, I circled the word Melamed, and it says, Ve'ata Yisrael shema el achukim ve'el amishpatim asher anochi melamed etchem which means, O Israel, listen to the statutes and the rules that I am teaching you. And that is reinforcing the aspect of the teaching part. The last slide has to do with the relationship between teaching, learning, and action. And if you click the button, Judy, you first of all, I would like for you to note on all the Hebrew, all the Lammed, Mem, Dalet that you can see. And if you click the button, you will see that that this citation is made of a lot of Lammed, Le Lammed, Lilmod, Ulamed, and so on and so forth. And I let you read the translation underneath. So I'm just calling you on the intersection between teaching, learning, and acting. And I would like to complete this little presentation of Lammed on the very inspiring song that Yora showed us yesterday, but showing you the letters, that the words that I would like to emphasize. And I don't know whether we can see that or not, but in the Al-Kolele song that has a lot of lameds and a lot of chafs that Yora presented, the repeating words and the salient words are dvash for honey, sweet, water, house, and hope. Hope is tikva, house is bayit, water is maying, and sweet is matok. So I just want you to listen to the very beginning, because we heard this whole song last night, but I thought it was a nice close the loop with last night's presentation. And so on and so forth. Thank you so much again for listening to these words about the Lammed. I learned a lot, and I hope I shared some of what I learned with you.
And thank you from us to you. I was thinking when you were talking about the word lev, that there is a saying in Hebrew, מה שיוצא מן הלב נכנס אל הלב. Whatever comes from the heart enters the heart. And I know that what you have taught us comes from your heart. So we thank you for it. And it also reminded me, yes, that the last letter of the Torah, בעיני כל ישראל, it is actually a Lammed.
Wow.
And there are those that say that the last letter, Lammed, combined with the first letter of Bereshit, create this Lev that you were talking about. So thank you very, very much for this very wonderful presentation. It's really remarkable. Let me see here. It says somebody was mentioning the fact that she has not seen in Israel the Lammed on the cars. That's very, very, very wonderful. And then thank you for your wonderful teaching. Lori Frank says, her name has a Lammed in it. And Irv Cohen, who is our magician to make sure that the Selihot study sessions come together. A lot of love put into this presentation. And so it is fourth. And I wanted to also remind everybody that tomorrow night we have also a very special presentation, because for letter Lammed, for letter after letter Lammed comes letter Mem, as Evelyne told us. And for that letter, we're going to have somebody very special. That's Rowan Pitlock, who's going to be teaching us letter Mem. And I also want to remind everybody that after this week on Saturday night, we have a special edition of Selihot version Ashkenaz, right? And that's going to happen at 8:45 in the evening on Zoom, the same registration that you have. And we're going to be inviting, as Lovesh Tzedakot, since God is dressed on justice, we're going to be inviting two great organizations, Jews United for Justice and Bend the Ark. They're going to be talking to us, and we're going to be asking for your questions and bringing you, as Evelyne taught us, not only to teach and to learn, but to act as well, right? As Rabbi Ishmael tells us in Pirkei Avot. And just in case that you have missed any presentations prior to this one, we are having them all recorded for you, so you can go and brush up. If you, in fact, if you are like me, sometimes you want to see them more than once. All this is to tell you that we are so excited that we just arrived to the middle of the Selihot that go all the way from Sunday through Thursday. We give ourselves a little break for Shabbat, and then we go all the way to the afternoon of Yom Kippur, before the Mincha service, that, by the way, begins with Mem, the letter that we are going to be learning tomorrow night. Until then, I wish you all another very important word that also begins with Lammed, and that is Laila Tov. And I ask everybody, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the evening, restorative, and Lu Yehi. May it be that we find the peace and especially good health for all of us at this very difficult time that we are all experiencing. Thank you, Evelyne, one more time. Laila Tov.
Thank you, Ramon.
Laila Tov, thank you for tonight.
Yes, yes. Good night, everybody.
Good night.